Slide. Okay, folks, here we are. We call this our Super Bass or our Bass A seminar series. First of all, from all of us here at Bucks Island, from Tony, Mary, Katie, Angela, Israel, and the entire team, thank you guys for coming spending the day with us. This is something we put a lot of effort and work into, and everything that we do here at Bucks Island, you guys are the reason. We appreciate all of you. We're grateful for your friendship. We're grateful for your business. We thank you for being here. This is a commitment on a day when you could be out doing something different. We appreciate it. Same for these guys. These are some of the best fishermen in the world. We're fortunate to call them friends. We're fortunate to call them family. Let me go ahead and introduce these guys to you. This is Mark Menendez from Paducah, Kentucky. He is Bassmaster Elite Series Pro. He's one of the oldest guys out there at this point. He's been doing this. It's his entire career. Mark is he's a graduate of Murray State University. Fisheries biology. Does not mean he knows fish better than anybody, but he does. I'm kidding. Connor Jacob, he's new to the Bucks Island family. He's a qualifier for the Bassmaster Classic. He went to the Auburn University. He's on the fishing team there. He just finished 19th at his first Bassmaster Classic, qualified through the Bass Nation. Matt Herron, NPFL Pro. He is a TTBC and FLW Tour champion. He's from Asheville, Alabama. Matt knows this river just as good, if not better, than just anybody else that you want to see, except for maybe Tracy Robinson, who's sitting around here probably critiquing everything we have to say. And Will, why are you glaring at Matt like that? This is Will Davis. Thank Will and his dad, William, for the wings today, folks. They do this as a donation. So their family is very involved in a lot of things. I'll get to his fishing credentials here in just a minute. Their family's been very involved in a lot of different charities. I've been fortunate to be on the board with William for a charity, but they do this cooking as a fundraiser for ARC in Sylacauga, or Talladega, correct? So basically they do the food at cost and a donation. That's what they do it for, but great family. William owns Davis Bait Company. Little Will's a part of that as well, but he is a two-time Bass Nation champion, an Elite Series champion, and a current Bassmaster Elite Series Pro. We got Scott Canterbury, he's family as well. He's an FLW Tour champion, the 2019 Bassmaster Angler of the Year. He's a Bucks Island Pro as well. Another Bucks Island Pro. This man needs no introduction. He is an absolute miracle of a human being. One of the greatest people I know. I tease him a lot, but I look up to him more than, and yes, that was a joke, Clay.
I look down to you, son.
You should. Clay Dyer, folks, if he can do it, you can. And I mean that. And I'm going to tell on myself real quick. Some of these people here have heard this story. I've known Clay 25 years. I'm at a Strike King Lose media conference at Kentucky Lake, and I get in the boat with him, and I ask him as a writer. I'm sitting there and I'm watching him fish, and I'm amazed. I'm amazed to watch him and everything that he does. And I'm standing there and I'm watching him. I go, Clay, what are your goals as a fisherman? And he goes, well, I want to win the Bassmaster Classic someday, and I want to win the Angler of the Year. You know, I'd love to beat Kevin at his game, and blah blah blah. And I'm sitting there thinking to myself, really? And then I went, what an idiot. I said, you know, that man doesn't think of himself as handicapped. I mean, he is an absolute walking miracle, and I know that. And I said, you know what, Clay, I'm sorry. He goes, what's that? I said, I just put you in, you know, you're sitting in your chair. You know, I said, I just limited you, and you don't think of yourself that way. He goes, ain't the dumbest thing anybody's ever said about me or said to me. And I said, what's that? And he goes, well, remember when I fished the FLW Tour out of the Bass Fan boat? I said, I do. Article was being done on me, and they came out and they asked the photographers, like, I got to get pictures of you. Where are you going to be? He goes, I'm going to go about 3 miles down here on the right. There's a point here. Then I'm going to run about 2 miles down this way. I'm going to be between those 2 points for about an hour and a half. And then he goes, and then I'm going to make a 30-mile run. So you want to get me at those first 2 points. The guy looks at him and goes, how am I going to know it's you? And he says, I'll be the only 3 foot tall guy standing on the deck of a bass boat. He goes, that's the dumbest thing. Yours is close. And we're friends like that. He can say that. Wes Logan, he is an Elite Series champion. He won right here on our home lake in 2022. He is a Bucks Island Pro as well, and from Springville, Alabama. Originally from Newcomerstown, Ohio, this is Hunter Schrock. He just finished 4th at the Bassmaster Classic. He is here on behalf of Icon Boats. He's an Icon Pro, one of 3 that work with the company. Hunter Wayne, as we all call him, because we love him, we camp around him. Tremendous. If there's anybody that started the video production work amongst professional anglers, it's him. He's a tremendous angler, but he's also been someone, he and his wife Felicia, they have worked very hard to promote their brand. But these are people that we get to work around here at Bucks Island. These are people that I get to live around most of my life, most of the year, and they know more about fishing than most of us have ever, well, they've forgotten more about fishing than most of us have ever learned. So we're going to open it up to questions. Oh,
I got the first question.
Tony's got the first question. Imagine that.
Where in the world, think about this a minute. I'm kind of a big picture guy, right? Where in the world today, what's the date? What's the date?
It's March 29th.
March 29th, 2025. Where today in the world can you be this much talent sitting in front of you wanting to talk to you for free and give you wings to boot?
Again, folks, I work at a really, really wonderful place that allows me to do this. So, who's got a question for these guys? Yes, sir.
I've got a kind of a spinning and a casting question.
Okay.
If you had to pick a rod and a reel for all-around purposes for a casting setup to start with, what would you pick if you had $1,000 budget overall?
To get 2 combos.
Yeah, the rod and reel together, I want to spend $1,000.
And you want a spinning rod and a casting
I've
rod.
already got the spinning setup.
Okay.
And I'm happy with it. I'm looking for a casting setup, and that's how much I want to spend. Rod and reel. I like sensitivity. Distance isn't as important, but what would y'all pick?
Okay, here's the question. If you had $1,000 budget and you needed a good casting rod combo for kind of general overall purpose use, okay? Mark, what would you choose? I'll just pass it down the line.
I would choose something in a medium heavy action, something that's about 80-20 with the tip, nice good tip on it, decent butt section. That would allow me to throw a buzz bait, a spinner bait. I could fish a jig a little bit on that. You could actually probably use a little bit of swim jig in there. That's a rod that I use an awful lot for many, many different things. A 7'3", medium heavy, with that 80-20 tip would be the first thing. In the reel, I have moved up in gear ratio on a lot of stuff, particularly pitching, flipping. I've moved up to an 8.3 to 1 gear ratio. A lot of people think that's a little bit too fast maybe. You might move the bait too fast, but what I'm finding is how many times have you been fishing a jig or a plastic worm and you pitch over there and the jet ski catches your attention or the pretty girl on the dock catches your attention or whatever, and the next thing you know your line's taken off. Why do the bass always bite when you're not looking? Well, that 8.3 to 1 allows me to get enough line in so I can set the hook and I catch most of those fish. But that would be my combo.
Brand specific, if you're allowed to do that, I don't know.
Yeah, well,
Are
I
we
work.
all allowed to contractually say?
Yeah, I can. I work with Luz.
There's just so many different.
One of my favorite ones is the Pro TI. It's a purple-based rod. It's real pretty. I really like that blank. It's a soft blank. It does everything I need it to. Very sensitive. And the Luz, now I've lost my Hypermag. The Luz Hypermag on the 831.
Yeah, I pretty much agree with everything he just said, especially the ratio one. You're going to hear, with that question, you're going to get a lot of people saying 7 foot medium heavy, and that's absolutely the truth. I throw so much on. I throw too much on that. Like, I'll throw a big bait on it, I'll throw a finesse stuff on it. Like, you can get away with anything. Reel wise, I would stick with the 8-to-1. You're gonna get a lot of people who say like 7, 6. Just it's a good general answer, but I don't throw anything under an 8-to-1 unless I'm cranking nowadays, and even then I'll throw a square bill on it. So that's gonna be a good general, and I think times are changing where more people are going towards that. Brand wise, I'm not sponsored by any rod reel company, and I'd look at Shimano and G Loomis to start with. They're just a great overall. You know, there's some different models depending a lot in your price range. As far as the reel goes, the 8-to-1 ratio is good. Now you're going to get different sized reels. I like a smaller profile. The more traditional is like a 200 size. I think a 150 is a little better to start with. It's more ergonomic in your hand, and it's just a little easier to get accustomed to throwing different baits on. So I definitely look more into that 150 size. You don't hear too many people talk about that, but I think it's a good starter one, and it's a little less common, so it's something to look into.
Same on the brand for the reel.
Yeah, Shimano's gonna be great. Honestly, I love all their brands, but I just kind of had a Shimano arsenal built up through the years, and that's pretty much all I throw now because I'm comfortable with it. So it's a good one to start with.
I'm along the same line, 7 foot, 7'3", medium heavy. Versatility in that length rod and blanks gonna allow you just to do a whole lot. I'm a little bit slower gear ratio. I like a 7.3 to 1. If you're comfortable and you fish every day, it's easier for me to take an 8.3 to 1 and slow down or speed up with a retrieve. And the hardest thing to be when you're fishing is to slow down. And you know, so being able to slow down a little bit, that going just a little bit slower make it easier. There's so many rods. You mentioned that you had $1,000 price point that you wanted to invest. Well, you can buy one really, really high end, but there's so much quality product made out there right now.
If it's the same value, if y'all know something that's like, obviously y'all do this for a living, so if you know something that's worth $1,000 that you're not spending $1,000,
Sure.
that'd be great.
All these
A lot of them are.
Yeah, a lot of the rod manufacturers. Now you can spend as much as you want to or as little as you want to.
Right.
But there's some great quality out there now in that mid price point, and I really think with $1,000, you can wind up with 2 quality reels and 2 quality rods.
Okay.
And just depends on what you're looking for. If you want one really, really just maxed out quality thing, you're looking probably somewhere between $600 to $1,000. Or you can buy 2 really nice rods that'll last you and be super good for. So that's price point and budget, but there's
Basically, what you're saying is the difference isn't that great.
no,
Between
it's
a $40
really not.
rod and reel setup and an $800 rod and reel setup.
No, it's really not. I mean, the blanks and stuff, where you're spending the money at is not necessarily on the blanks.
It's not the technology.
No, the difference you're going to spend on rods is actually the reel seats, the reel laces, the guides. That's where the money is on the rod. When you start seeing price point difference, there'll be some quality difference in the blank a little bit. But a lot of the midpoint stuff that you're going to see, a lot of these rods you won't realize if you walk in and look at even the one manufacturer, and you see one rod that's $200 and one rod that's $350. It'll blow your mind, but a lot of times it's the same blank, but the components on that blank is where the money's at. It's whether it's a Fuji guide or Fuji reel seats. Yeah, I mean most people don't understand it when they walk in the store and see that what the difference is. But let your budget use your. I'm sponsored by Kistler. We got rods that are $600. We got rods that's $199. So
Nothing wrong. I'd rather spend less.
right. So, but yeah, don't feel like it. You're setting yourself. I wanted to clear that up. You said you got $1,000.
I figured if I said that number, I would get the premium answer.
Oh, you're going to get a premium answer. You buy a Magneti for $1,000.
No.
You can buy a good one.
Your grade of cork is going to play into it. Where the blanks, and Pure Fishing has blanks that are high-end stuff, that the resins that they use, the scrim that they use, all that stuff. But then you start putting species of cork, and the material that they make the guides out of is gonna add to it. Well, Will, what do you got?
I mean, you see what he does. I mean, he said, look at all those years of knowledge. Well, he done put 2 of the best ones that's in here. He's got all the knowledge and done said everything.
Right. Well, I mean,
I'm with you.
Are you referring to yourself?
The 2 right here, these gray heads.
These great.
Man, I'm sponsored by Cascade and FX man, if I was just getting into the game, you know, Cass King has got really cheap reels that's really good reels. You can buy like a Mega Jaws, like I throw bait casting for $75, and I fish a whole season with that reel. You know, but man, if you can go anywhere, you can go to Walmart, buy your rod and reel combo, put you some string line on there, 17 pound, buy you a couple spinner baits, jigs, whatever you want to do. Go to your favorite pond, go to, you know, with your buddy on the lake and have a good time. But you don't need nothing expensive. They all do the same thing, basically.
Unless you talk to Colin.
Right. That's salesperson.
I agree with everything they said. Everything they said is right. I'm actually with Cass King reels also. I use the Mega Jaws Elite, which is like a $149 reel. I use them a lot. I use their deadbolt. And they have higher ends. They have an MG12, which is a magnesium for like $249. So it just depends on how it feels to you. Rods, I've been using for the past 4 years a Halo Canterbury Series rod. It's a $129 rod, and I love it. And now I'm using Chaotic rods, which is the lightest, most sensitive rod I've ever used, but it's a $450 rod. So, and it just depends on what you like and what you're doing with it. Just the biggest thing is to get some and get out on the water and spend time with it in your hand.
To get you more bang for your buck, you know, all these guys, we're blessed to use some of the best equipment out there. And I've been with St. Croix rods and 7 reels now for a couple of years. And I will tell you, for the price point you were talking about, the reels I use and the rods I use, I carry about 30 in my boat. And of the 30 I carry, about over half of them are 7'3", medium to medium heavy action. It's a St. Croix. It's called a Victory. That rod, you can get it. Actually, Bucks Island here is a St. Croix dealer. That rod you can retails for about anywhere from like 109 to 129. The reels I use is called a 7 GX series. The ratio for like what these guys were saying, I use a lot of 8-to-1 for pretty much everything except spinner baits and moving baits other than like topwater. For those I use a 7-to-1 or a 6-to-1. But for your price point you're talking about, you could actually, in that lineup like I use, you could actually get 2, you know, bait casters for what you're looking, you know, at your budget. And you could get 2 at the top of the line, and they, the way I throw them, you know, tucking them between my jawbone and my collarbone, you're obviously not going to throw them like that. But the way I cast mine, they have made a huge difference in my fishing because of me having less backlashes because I can fine tune the reels that good. And but like these guys said, they're all great rods and reels out there, and you're not going to go wrong. You know, the more you use it, it's like anything else. The more you use it, the more you're going to become in tune with it, and they'll all catch them. But anyway, we can, you know, I can help, or we can help. Just let us know. We'd be glad to.
The other thing you said was size of rod, and I'm with them a 7-foot medium heavy, and if I had to pick 2, I'd go to a 7.3, like a 7.3 heavy, just for more. I like to fish a jig and plastics and stuff a little bit on the bottom.
What about you, Wes?
Yeah, I work with Arc Rods. I've been with them for 7 years, and we actually come out with a lineup of my signature series last year. And I actually have I've got a 7.3 medium heavy, and I named it literally anything, and basically because you can do anything with it. It's a 40-ton blank. It's a cork handled rod. It's got all our components on it in house, so and they're by far as good a quality as any of the better component manufacturers out there. And we get to keep it in house, like I said, so we know everything that we're doing with that. It price points at $159.99, and I swear to you, I would put it up against any rod out there. You can put it beside a G Loomis, you can put it beside your best Daiwa, and I would stand beside it to feel like you would not know. If I didn't tell you the price point, you wouldn't know it. And we have a series of reels, a gravity series of reels. We have a 3, a 5, a 7, and an 8. You could get my rod with a 3 or a 5 and get 3 of them for $1,000, which is, you know, kind of what you were looking at spending. But, you know, you can order them on Tackle Warehouse. There's a lot of other retailers that's got them. But, yeah, that's what I would go with. A 7.3 medium heavy is going to be your best bet.
Hunter, Pure Fishing's got a bunch of different series. Help the men figure out what Abu rods are.
Yeah, I mean, I think everybody's touched on everything pretty much to this point. But I think the biggest thing for me, like if I was to go out and I had to buy my equipment tomorrow, I would be looking at trying to get several combos. folks, and I think everybody up here would agree, we could all fish with $150 rod and reel combo, every one of us. I think the difference is we all know what we want in the rod. Yeah, they're going to be a little heavier. Yeah, it might not be as sensitive, but we know the action that we want to use for a shaky head or a bladed jig or a crankbait. We can pick it up and know instantly, this is what I want, but what I want to what Wes wants, to what Matt wants, to what everybody, we're all different. So I think, spending some time really paying attention to what works for you and what doesn't, and I know that's tough for me to sit up here and tell you that, but it's kind of like technology. We all got cell phones. Well, the cell phone that we had 4 years ago, and now it's progressed to this, that's the same way with fishing reels, the same way with fishing rods. And now it's a $79 fishing rod, and we could all use it and compete and still catch fish with it. So, but if you want the lightest, most sensitive, a $1,200 combo, you can go that way as well. Biggest thing is figuring out that action that you want. 7.3 medium heavy is really, really tough to beat. You can do a lot of different things with it, or you could go get 6 combos for that same price and have a bunch of variety. So,
And I would point out to you to think about it this way: fishing rods have become like golf clubs. You're not going to stand on a tee box with a pitching wedge and think you're gonna birdie a par 5. So you kind of need to. They become a little bit more specialized. Any other questions that you guys have? Yes, sir.
On the Coosa chain, or depending on weather, what are some of your more favorite types of bait?
So the question for those of you at home is on the Coosa chain. What are your, depending on the weather conditions, what are some of your favorite types? Hunter, I'm going to start with you because you fished a tournament on this lake once, and I want to know how you kind of got started, and then we can come this way this time.
what was the question?
On a chain like the Coosa, depending on weather conditions, what would be the kind of your favorite technique to start with?
If I was looking at today, you got overcast, cloudy conditions, water temps probably low 60s. I'm gonna be picking up a bladed jig probably, and I'm just driving over the bridge, seeing all the docks in the water. Those fish are gonna be staging or spawning around those docks, picking up a jig or flipping bait. Hard to beat, or at least that's my style. So covering water with a bladed jig and flipping a lot of docks.
Wes? Answer the question.
Yeah, I mean, I grew up on this river. Like, I haven't spent there as much time as they have, but I do like it. I feel like I know it pretty well. And like Hunter said, I mean, having a bait to cover a lot of water with, whether it be a vibrating jig, a spinner bait's still a real big player around here, even though it gets kind of foreshadowed by the vibrating jig. And I'm gonna have a flipping bait also. I'm probably gonna pitch a jig around just because I know if I get a bite, what can be caught on that thing around here. But depending on water color, that'll be chartreuse and white on the spinner bait or chatterbait, and then probably black and blue this time of year. And as the water cleans up, you can get a green pumpkin or a brown and get plenty of bites.
As for me, I'll let you hold it, brother. I get talking with you. Yeah, thank you. My personal Mike holder. I've only known this guy since we were both in high school nearly. But to answer your question, brother, we're all a lot of us I feel like are the same on this. I love power fishing, especially this time of year when they're up shallow. I'm probably going to have about 4 to 5 rods on the deck. One of them's going to be a bladed jig, a plastic flipping bait, a jig, a regular flipping jig, black and blue or green pumpkin orange. I've not seen too much water that's too dingy for a green pumpkin orange. They'll still bite it. I will tell you in my experience over the years, water temperature and water color a lot of times messes with fishermen more than it does fish. With the fish, when they want a bait, you can't hardly take it away from them when they want it. With that being said, those baits, but one thing I'd probably add to it that a lot of people, you don't hear about a lot this time of year is the topwater. A lot of times when they're coming up and they're getting ready to bed, they're feeding, they're aggressive. And when you get a day that's warm after you've had 2 or 3 warm days and they're really feeding, you'd be surprised. You could tie on a buzz bait, and when you go around some of these bait or these pockets and you find like the isolated cover, if you throw a buzz bait around it, you better put your seatbelt on and hang on, because Granddaddy is living by and fixing to snatch it. But I hope that helps you.
Yeah, I mean, I fish this chain when I'm at home 2 or 3 days a week. I fish the lower end a lot more than I do up here, but I fish it all, and I'm a power fisherman. I like to fish a jig. I like to swim a jig, throw a buzz bait. I like to do all that. But if I was taking my daughter or my neighbor or somebody fishing, it would be a little bit different. I'd fish a lot more for spotted bass. We have a lot of spots, especially on Logan Martin stuff. And I'd throw a Carolina rig on some long flat points and road beds, places where they're moving up to spawn, and you'll catch a lot of fish. When we're talking about fishing, we're mostly talking about tournament fishing, trying to catch the 5 biggest ones we can catch. But a lot of it's about having fun too, and I love doing that.
I got 2 that fish high school.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's awesome. I like to see the youth in the sport, for sure. Carolina rig, anything green pumpkin, a little bit of chartreuse on the back of it with a Carolina rig. A shaky head is catching a ton of fish right now on Logan Martin. I went this week and I crappie fished a bunch, but I mean, you could just go down the bank and any dark spot you've seen in 3 foot of water had a fish on it. They're up there trying to get ready to spawn, so just slow down a little bit instead of power fishing so much and fish a little bit finesse, and you'll get a lot more bites. But you can do it either way. Bladed jig, catchy big ones. And it's a good thing to start early with those moving baits, those power baits. And as the sun gets up, it gets a little slower fishing, go to some of those other techniques.
All you need is just a minnow. A minnow shaker.
Always got to be that guy in the crowd.
I mean, you got to. No. A minnow's a good way to get bit, using 4-piece sonar. But the way I'm raised, the way every one of us sitting up here have been raised, we ain't a minnow shakers. We ain't the minnow shaking group up here. We old school.
I don't know about Connor.
Well, yeah, that's
This is the show.
I know Mark's getting there.
You're the current specialist. Touch a little bit on current.
So, this time of year, if I'm largemouth fishing, I'm gonna swim the jig early, throw a frog. A lot of times these fish, 90% of these big fish on the Coosa River, they are shallow. When I mean shallow, like they should be walking on the bank, and especially your bigger ones. So, with that being said, I'm gonna do that early, and look for bedding fish. Of course, this time of year, the water temperature is from 57 to 64 degrees. That's usually my go-to. In practice, is finding a big one on bed or a couple of them to game day that nobody else has found them. Most of the time they have, or it's blowed out due to the weather. I'm a big current fisherman. I love fishing eddies and behind dams and stuff like that. In the springtime of the year, you can get right in a hurry, but you can also get right in a hurry with your insurance company too, knocking lower units off. So with that being said, current fishing is the funnest thing to do on the Coosa River, and if you haven't done it up there towards these dams, wear your life jacket and be safe, and definitely try it out because it can be definitely worth the reward.
And I will say this, if you do happen to get up there, you do happen to knock the lower unit off, come see Misty in service. We know how to take care of your insurance company.
Tell him Will said he'd take care of 10% of all costs.
No, he wants commission. Send him to the dam.
Look, I grew up on this river from Jordan down to Weiss Lake, the headwaters in Rome. I've always kept it really simple. I grew up here. I learned how to flip and fish and throw a spinnerbait and all that good kind of stuff. I caught myself, I fished yesterday afternoon for 3 hours over there. I put in a Canoe Creek. And I wound up catching about 30 with a spinning pole and a wacky rig Senko and had a ball. When if I'm tournament fishing, that's one thing. But when I go out, I still like to get bites, have fun. And if I went by the right pieces of brush and the right dock and I knew they were set up, I'd have locked the jig in my hand and I'd have went whooping them. But they're just now moving up. They really hadn't set up where they're going to be. The water's starting to come up. And a lot, especially the upper 3 Coosa lakes, they're not full of pole yet, so they're really not positioned. But like Scott said, I can go by any dark spot that you can see in 3 foot of water on these old clay bottoms. You throw the wacky rig Senko hook on there, something's going to run off of it. And, but tournament fishing here, make sure you get bites. Shake your head, like Scott's talking about, a wacky rig Senko makes the day go a whole lot easier. Get some bites in the boat. But if you want to win Coach said, you're gonna do it with a buzz bait like his with a toad on it, with a compact swim jig, which is what my go-to deal is, or flipping jig. That's just what I'm gonna do. But adds a little versatility to it, get some bites, make it fun.
Yeah, I'm definitely the least experienced out of all these guys on this river. So, as someone who moved to Auburn from Illinois and spent a lot of time fishing a really different style in the whole current thing, I can speak more on like how to approach it if you haven't had much experience out there. And I couldn't agree more with what they're saying about shaky head and wacky worm. I mean, the shaky head, you hear everyone say, throw shaky head, throw shaky head. It's true. I mean, find some rocks, throw shaky head at it, find a dock pile, throw shaky head at it. You'll catch something on it. So if you want to get bites, do that. You'll catch some big ones on it too. But showing up here, it definitely took me a little bit to get the hang of it. And it's more of just try to think about how the current's setting the fish up. Right now, like they're saying with the spawn, it's going to be just kind of get out of some current, throw that wacky worm around. Just always be aware of current, because it took me a long time to kind of put that together. I was like, why am I getting bites here, not here? And it's so simple to these guys who grew up on the river. It's like, second nature. They just show up where the current's right. But just think about it. Are they in primary current, secondary current? Just always keep it in front of your mind. What are they generating? It's a good thing to look at out here. And then, throw a wacky rig around until they're done spawning, and then get back out there and chase them around with the minnow.
Well, everything that's been mentioned is, you've heard power fishing, you've heard jig, you've heard all of those. One of the things I like to do this time of the year, when I don't know whether the fish have started to move up to get shallow, that if they're on the bed yet, one of the things I like to do is a little baby Carolina rig, a lightly weighted Carolina rig with about 18 inches of line, little Petey rig is what we call it. One of my good friends, Peter Fiddleveris, professional fisher from Florida, he handed our butts to us for years doing that. It's a great way to get lots of bites. It's a great way to cover water fairly quick. Use maybe a 3/16 ounce sinker, 18 inches of line, and a Strike King game hog or some kind of small soft plastic. Obviously, we talked about green pumpkin with a little bit of chartreuse on there. That is a great way to catch a lot of fish, and every now and then that OV fish will like that too. So that's a good way to cover lots of water.
And for the record, Peter Televeros was sponsored by Zoom, and he always threw a watermelon fluke on that thing. Little 3/0 hook in it, 3/16, little glass bead with a swivel. That's what he did. 12-pound line in this little finesse rig. Okay, who's got another question? Yes, sir.
I was wondering if y'all would, just real quick, mention a bait that y'all use that you're not sponsored by.
Okay, so the question for everybody at home is, use a bait that they use that they're not sponsored by.
Well, we all do that. We all try to promote the companies that we work for, but not every company makes the whole range of baits for us. So that gets to your question. One of the baits that I really like this time of year, that I'm targeting big fish only with, is a bait called the Gilmore Jumper. That is a big double prop bait, topwater bait, that's about this big around. Little ones don't fool with it. And it's funny, my color choice is a very, very strange, it's a flat blue color. Bo, don't say anything about Kentucky blue, but this, because he's from Tennessee. Go Vols, I knew, here we get it out of there. But it's an old flat blue color like somebody spray painted it. And that one has won me a ton of money this time of year.
Mega Bass Vision 110 plus 1 white. I mean, I throw it everywhere. I can't think of the last tournament I cut a check in where I didn't weigh a winner on it. So people think about, traditional wintertime jerk bait, but it's just a great bait. No matter who you're sponsored by, I think everyone here would throw it at a certain point in time. And it's just a great bait for every time of year now, especially with live scope when you can look at them all the time.
I got pretty much every top of the line, everybody in plastics and jigs. But I don't have any hard bait sponsors as far as crankbaits. My favorite go-to is a 1.5. Whether it's a Strike King, whether it's a Lucky Craft, it's a great bait to catch a lot of big fish and cover a lot of water. So it's a really important tool in my box.
Probably the Norman DD22. I grew up fishing it with my dad out here on these ledges, and I still catch a lot of big fish on it. We don't go to many places on it that I can throw it, but if I do go to a place where it's deeper and I'm fishing ledges, I've definitely got it tied on.
Yeah, they're hitting on some good ones. I never heard of that Go More Jumper or whatever it was. pretty good. I don't even know where to get that at. Yeah, I'm pretty old. But I tell you, there's a lot of them that I throw. Berkeley Fritz side, I throw the jerk bait there, the mega bass. Berkeley Fritz side's probably caught more bass in the last couple of years than any bait out there. It's a really good one, Fritz side 5. But I like fishing topwater, and if I had one topwater that I'm not sponsored by, it'd probably be a Vixen from Reaction Innovation. A Vixen. I've caught a ton of fish on it. It's been a good one for me.
I want to kind of enter what Mark said down there. You know, I'm very fortunate and blessed that to be sponsored by who we're sponsored by. You know, our sponsors, or at least I believe they tell most of us. I know they tell me, look, you know, try to catch them on our stuff. If you can't, you know, throw what you got to throw to get bid on, and just don't lie about it. So we don't. But you know, one of my favorites to me that I throw this time of year, and really a lot of times a year, but I love throwing a big wake bait. When you're not around a lot of grass, you're around a lot of you know, wood and rocks and docks. Rapala makes a wake bait, but that I really like, and Spro makes one. It's called a Zero, and you can throw it on heavier line, a bigger rod, and you can throw it a long way. And I love watching those fish come up. You know, when it's sitting on top of the water like a live, you know, minnow, just you know, with a wide wobble throwing a wake, and you see the big joker come up and golf it down like a Snicker bar. It's hard to beat.
Yeah, I can't believe none of y'all said jackhammer, because I know we all know. If you're going to throw a bladed jig out there, it's going to be a Z-Man jackhammer or evergreen, whatever you want to call it. That's kind of a given for all of us anglers, I think. And then, like Scott said, a Fritz side 5 just gets bit. I don't know what it is about it. No shot at Berkeley, but if you're going to throw it, you better get about 5 of them, because the bill will break. I guess that's some job security. I'm not trying to be that guy, but I'm just being honest. But yeah, and Berkeley makes a really good prop bait too. I forgot what's it called. The spin rocket is really good. It has a little unique sound the way the blades are made, and I catch a lot of fish on it too.
I've never thrown a bait that I haven't been sponsored by, so.
Folks,
you guys didn't get that. All
here's
right,
what
that's
you
a
know.
joke, that's a joke.
How do you know if a fisherman's lying? His mouth is moving.
But we don't have a buzz bait, and I'll be honest, I've thrown Scott's Canterbury's buzz bait for the last, gosh, when did you come out with that? A long time. It's a good buzz bait. My favorite's a 3/8 ounce, straight out the pack. It's super squeaky, which in my opinion makes for a really, really good buzz bait. 1/4 ounce is good too. Is that what you throw?
I throw a quarter most of the time. And it's a Dirty Jigs tackle. Canterbury Pro Buzz is what I'm talking
And we have those up here.
Yeah.
It's a good buzz bait.
It's for carrying a toad on the back of it, or any plastic, really.
Right. Yeah.
It holds
It's a good bait.
Like the keeper's really good. Good hook.
Good hook. And again, it squeaks. So you compare it to another buzz bait, you'll see right away it makes a different sound. So it's fun.
And I will speak to what Wes said about the jackhammer. People say, well, bladed jig is no. That thing comes to life the moment you turn the reel handle, and it hunts better than anything else out there. So it does make a difference on the strikes you get. And then the trailer that you put on the back of it will make a difference. You'll get more hunting action out of a straight tailed trailer. You'll get more kicking action, which will deaden the vibration. So it's a very versatile bait. Okay, any other questions? Yes, sir.
Somebody like me, what's your advice? Like, I have 2 baits that I like to throw, and I don't buy anything else because, like, I try a fluke or I try crawl or whatever, but I go back to what I like. What's your advice?
So
You
here's the
already got it
question.
figured out.
What's the two
You already got it figured out.
The question is, he's got 2 baits that he likes to throw. You didn't say what they were.
My number one thing is June bug crawl. I can go any lake I want to, and I usually catch 1 4 or 5 pound bass, you know, everybody. And I do that like maybe once a month or something like that, which is good. Like, I just try something else, and I'm like, I've tried that, I've tried this. I hear what you guys are saying, but when I try like a bladed jig, I throw it back on tackle box. I didn't catch it.
So are you saying you want to expand your offerings a little bit?
So what's your advice for somebody that gets comfortable with one thing? And I catch
His advice is, his question is how does he get comfortable throwing something new?
Look, anytime I want to learn a new technique or a new bait, you got to develop confidence in it. One of the things I'll do, I'll literally, just like drop shot. I took everything out of the boat and I took nothing but drop shot stuff. I went to the lake, and of played with it, played with different color worms, different color fluke style bodies. But confidence comes from getting bites. Positive affirmation that you're doing something right. And that don't always happen the first time you go or the first time you pick up a bait. So you kind of got to get it in your head, hey, I'm going to go learn this thing, I'm going to go play with it, and understand that there's so much going on YouTube and stuff now, you can almost go on there and tell what the seasonal time of the year is and the conditions you need for that lure or technique to work. So kind of do your research. You know, if it's a deep clear lake this is going to work on, don't go to a shallow nasty river. You know, you kind of got to take the tool for the job and go apply it. But it's getting bites. Just keep it in your hand until you learn to figure it out.
Leave everything else alone.
The other thing I would tell you to do to go get more bites, do you have access to go to somebody's farm pond? Go there because you're going to get bites on whatever technique you're working on, whether it's a buzz bait or a crankbait or whatever it is, you'll get bites there. And it's a heck of a lot easier to translate that confidence from getting bites in that farm pond to getting bites on the reservoir. Getting those bites is what you, those repetitions, just like swinging a baseball bat or a golf club. The more you do it, the more you'll be comfortable with it.
So I'm going to give you a little story, and all of these guys are probably a little bit different, but because I'm a writer and I work with so many guys, Gary Klein is one that will not put something into his tournament arsenal until he absolutely understands it. The drop shot rig, he did not put it into his tournament arsenal until he fully understood it. It took him 2 years. Now, I think it's a bit extreme, but I'm just saying everybody's going to be a little bit different. He wanted to understand exactly what rod to use, exactly. So everybody's going to be a little bit different. But you heard earlier in that big bait seminar, pick up the one thing. That's the best advice that those two guys gave you. Go somewhere you know you're going to get bites on it, and then only put that in the boat. That'll get you something new, and then you're confident in something, but and you can always go back to that. But learning something new will broaden your arsenal through the rest of the year and maybe increase the amount of bites you can get. Okay, anything else? And that's a really good question, sir. All right, you guys are sitting here like you know everything. Tell me something.
This gentleman's got a question.
Oh, no got much? Who's got a question?
I've got one more question.
Okay.
Because this is I mean, it kind of, it's going to depend on how good you are at it yourself, so the question may not be the best to ask, but what knot do y'all feel like is the strongest for line to line and for line to lure?
Okay, so he's asking
Not the easiest,
what
the
knot,
strongest.
what knot to tie for leader, line to line, and what knot to tie for line to lure. Hunter, let's start down there with you. And if you want to throw in the brands that you're using, feel free.
I think the biggest thing for knots, in my opinion, is the one that you can tie the best.
That's what I think.
You start breaking your line at the knot. Usually that's you're tying it wrong.
What if you're very comfortable with every knot you know?
That's really good.
Navy and you know knots like the back of your
Yeah.
hand.
I tie a Snell knot a lot. That's for flipping. What's the other one? Alberto to. I do an Alberto to join my lines, and I do a Palomar. Those are the only 3 knots I
Do you
tie.
think the Alberto is stronger than the FC knot? FG knot?
No, but I never break it,
Okay.
and I can tie it in about 30 seconds.
Okay.
So it's to each their own.
Okay.
You know what I mean?
If you're chilling on a dock, you got
Right.
all the time in the world, and you want to catch a 13-pound fish on maybe some. It's still
Tight.
tough.
Oh yeah, 100%.
Okay.
Yep. I mean, I flip with that knot too, from 40-pound braid to 25-pound fluorocarbon.
Doesn't matter the diameter of the line or the type of line either to you.
It's usually paired up pretty close, but you could use 8-pound braid to 15-pound fluorocarbon. A lot of guys do that with minnows, like 12-pound fluorocarbon, 8-pound braid, with a crazy Alberto or Alberto knot. But a lot of guys, I'm sure, tie FGs. But at the end of the day, tying it right is going to be the biggest, most important thing.
Yeah, I agree with Hunter. I mean, I tie Snell, I tie Palomar some, a lot on braid. I'll do Palomar, and then like fluorocarbon or monofilament, I'll just tie a regular uni knot, which is the easiest knot to tie. I got taught it when I was 5 or 6 years old, and I can tie it right now with my eyes closed. So anybody who's trying to learn to tie a knot, look into a uni knot. It's really strong. It's made me a lot of money, and it's pretty simple.
Me, as far as I'm tying line to line like a leader, I have no doubt in my mind that the FG knot is probably the strongest. But like Hunter was saying, the thing with the FG with most knots, if you don't tie them correctly, they'll fail. I'll be honest with you, the FG is probably, with all the fingers you see I have, the FG is my least favorite. I love tying a blood knot because it's fast and I've never had it fail on me. And I'm kind of an old school, if it ain't broke, don't fix it kind of guy. As far as bait to line, top waters, I tie a loop knot most of the time just because it gives my top water more action. With most other baits, as Wes said, I do a uni knot because I've never had it fail. It's real quick to tie. If I'm punching and flipping, with or throwing a frog or braid, I will tie the Palomar as Wes was saying, but I'll tie a double Palomar. And what a double Palomar, when you do the first overhand loop, I just do 2. And then once I tie it, I will, in most cases, I'll leave a little bit more of a tagged in because it will slip at times. And I'll put a drip of super glue on it, and you got them locked up.
A little bit of a story here. I've known Clay, I'll tell both of our ages, it's probably been 30 years ago, fishing on this lake in March, and we got on a rattle trap bite, and I fished tournaments with Clay. I've been to Mexico, we've done a lot of traveling, and I was like, here, let me tell you, I'll get it, you keep fishing. A few minutes, he's back there, I turn around, and he's got that rattle trap hung from his lip because he's got to put every bait in his mouth, and blood's running down his chin. He's shaking. He said, boy, it's got some good hooks on it. He did. He tied it on, and I had to pull it out of his lip, but he did. We ended up catching some fish on it. I tie the FG knot. It took me about a year to learn how to do it. I can't see like I used to could. And I've done a couple videos on how to tie that when you can't see good. I'll do another one here shortly on my social media. But I tie the FG knot if I'm tying line to line, braid to monofilament, braid to fluorocarbon, anything. It's stronger, I think, than any of them. Goes through your guides better than any of them for sure. That's the biggest thing is going through your guides. I can put enough on my spinning reel that I can line it up in the reel that casts fine. And if I'm flipping or pitching real close and I've got a lot of shock resistance, I use a San Diego cinch, which has 3 tag ends. I think that's the strongest one there is for anything that has a lot of shock resistance on it like that. So that's my 2 best knots. I mean, I'll tie a regular old cinch knot on any crankbaits or anything like that. You're not going to hardly break it. As long as your lines don't cross over each other and pull down on each other, you're not going to. What happens with fluorocarbon, it being such a dense line, is sometimes if you don't tie it right, it can pull down into itself and cut itself. But a cinch knot, San Diego cinch, none of them will do that.
I'm really scared to even talk about a knot. I'm scared I'm going to break off now. You know how it is. You start talking, I kind of the best knot, I'm going to break it off now. But that's just how us fishermen are, superstitious. But the knot that I use most of the time, I'm just tying straight, to a jig or a spinnerbait, just a Palmer knot. I'll do the Alberto knot or whatever they call it for my tag. Fluorocarbon to the braid. But the deal with that is, just like Clay said, you got to be very precise in your tying. And whether you're tying a Palmer knot or tying that Alberto knot, you got to be precise with it. And if you're not, it's going to show on you. The biggest deal that I've realized throwing a tag in, like drop shot or Omena, anything that you're going to do that braid to the fluorocarbon, don't have a long one. 3 to 4 foot is long enough. You get I say that 3 to 7 foot is about a good range because the more line you get in that spool and you make the cast, it's going to hang up on your guides. Yeah, that's basically the same deal. So, yeah, absolutely. Absolutely, yeah. But not having a long leader helps me more than anything. He's got all kind of stuff going on.
Yeah, I'm a spinning rod specialist guru. Now, look, I use 2 knots. It depends on whether it's the night before the tournament or during the tournament. I'll sit out there the night before the tournament. I'll tie you the prettiest FG knot that you ever want to see. But I'm telling you, at the the wind's blowing and you're using 6 or 8 pound fluorocarbon, I ain't got enough fingers and toes to tie that thing. It's a pain. But I'll use that knot. But if I'm in a tournament, I'm gonna tie the Alberto. It's never failed either. The only difference I've seen is the FG it's a longer knot and it seems to go through the guides a little bit better. But when time is money, and me sitting there fooling with a knot, I ain't got time. As far as moving baits, crankbaits, spinner baits, anything I do with fluorocarbon anymore, I'm tying. Basically, it's a double clenching. That's all it is. I think Scott tried to call it maybe it's a double San Diego cinch or something.
That's what it is, what they come out with.
Yeah, well, San Diego Jam's actually where you come up and you got a loop and you twist it and come down. You still wind up with 3 tag ends. The knot I've tied for years is just basically it's a double tri-link.
That's a double. That's what I do.
It's what it is. Double the line like he's gonna tie a Palomar. I twist it. If I'm using 6 or 8 pound fluorocarbon, I'll go 5 or 6 wraps. If I'm using 20 pound fluoro, I'll go 3 or 4. Just depends on the diameter of the line. Because the biggest thing is it's almost like a hangman's noose. If those loops ain't stacked exactly right, and you'll know this knot, you'll feel it click in your hand. When you feel that knot, when you cinch it down, when you wet it, you'll literally feel that knot click. And that's when everything locked and cinched in place. If it don't click, it ain't locked. So, but it's David Dudley of all things in Mexico. We were down there filming a show on Guerrero, and I was anti-fluorocarbon 100% because if I tied a Palomar knot with it, I use a really stiff flipping stick and set the hook hard, I would break every kind of fluorocarbon known to man on the hook stick. Because the Palomar, the tighter you pull on it, or as hard as you snap it, it cinches on itself. David's like, I'll show you the difference. He shies this knot. I'm like, hey, there ain't no way. He goes outside and gets a stick. And we're sitting there with hooks pulled into furniture. And he says, pull it till you break it. And when you feel it in your own hands, and you take 20 pound or 16 pound line, you wrap it around a stick or a dowel pin, and you pull it and you break it. Every time a Palomar knot broke in the eye of the hook, and every time that double clench knot broke, the knot in a bunch of line was still there. So I don't care about line testing, meters, or all that. My hands and my eyes told me all I needed to know.
Not wars.
Yeah, but Dudley, all of us know him. He's different, but he's really smart about a lot of stuff. But other than that, braid, I'm gonna use Palomar. I think it's probably the best knot for braid. It won't slip and don't break.
Yeah, that's pretty much exactly what I came to terms with. I used to tie the Palomar on everything, and like this time of year when they get on bed and I get right up on top of them, I'd always break 1 or 2 off. You know, only when it counted in a tournament because I got excited to set the hook too hard. So, I mean, I think that makes the Palomar the strongest, but the problem is, like you said, it cuts itself. So if you're throwing braid, definitely tie it. It's the best knot, and then I do the triple tag.
I hate to interrupt him. Hunter Wayne here is the one down here, the one that's got it figured out. Probably doing something that's smarter than anybody else. The rest of us, we're old school. I grew up fishing with monofilament. So you literally, back then, we had to leave slack in the line and just jerk like crazy with that slack to set the hook with a bigger diameter hook. Hunter's figured out the art of using a lighter, almost like a medium heavy flipping stick. And he uses a lot of braid fluorocarbon. And what he's doing, he's still, when you watch him set the hook, he really sets the fool out of it. But what he's doing, he's letting the rod absorb the energy, and it's not punishing his knot in where he's joining the braid and down on the hook. That's something point I want to make. If you set the hook really hard and you want to tie a Palomar, adjust the action of the rod to absorb some of the energy, and you can get away with that too.
Yeah, pretty much that triple tag end knot's been my favorite with fluoro. And then when it comes to the line to line, I like the FG knot. I think it's the best. I mean, it's what all the saltwater guys tie because you can tie it to really thick fluoro. And then, you know, what he was kind of talking about with the shorter leader. I have a Japanese friend. He was co-ing last year in the Opens, and it was crazy. They were like leaders, like, you know, 3 foot or less for the minnow. And I thought he was nuts, but he said, you know, it casts better. You don't have to break through all your guides. And when I can get away with it, I definitely do that more with the minnow. You know, when you're throwing like shaky up some on the bottom, I kind of do a little bit longer. But I've really cut it down. And then with the FG knot too, they say it casts better. I've noticed it's because the number one, the fluoro tag end kind of gets caught up in the wraps. So as it cinches down, the fluoro pulls into the knot, and that's what ends up catching catching on your guys. You know, you get a cast right into the water, and then you get all mad and stuff, and then you have to retrim the knot, retie it. It won't do that with the FG if you cut it short enough, then it cinches into itself and it's facing the right way, so it goes out better. Coming in, it might catch a little bit, but I've never really had a problem. So FG, I can 100% stand behind.
Double improved clinch, which is the cinch knot Scott talking about, what Matt's talking about. The old guys use most of that because we're just old. And then the Alberto because it's the simplest to line the floor up. And the one thing I will do when I tie my braid and use a Palomar, I will leave an extra long tag. And what I will do is I will half cinch that extra long tag twice, and that cures not having to use the super glue like Clay's talking about doing. It's one less thing I have to do, and then I'll trim that down.
I will add one thing to you. I don't make my living fishing, but I've fished my whole career. I'm 30 plus years in this. I tie nothing but a Palomar. Most people tie the Palomar wrong. What they do is they cinch it down the moment they drop the loop, the bait through the loop, and the loop is hanging down here, and when they cinch it down, they burn their line. If you take the double loop and you throw your fingers open and let it pop, let that bottom loop pop over the top, leave it loose until it snugs and it won't cut itself. It doesn't burn the line that way. That's all I tie on anything, except for, I use an Albright Special for my leader. My dad at 81 years old, I taught him to tie the Albright Special, and he can do that, and that's not something he would normally do. Okay, any other questions? Okay, I'm gonna ask one, and we're gonna start here with the fisheries biologist. We can talk baits all day long. Most important thing in this sport is being able to locate. This time of the year on a river like the Coosa River, what are you going to look at first to be able to start locating where fish are quantity, and then where you're going to start looking for quality?
Well, I know that they're not going to spawn in the current most likely. Your spotted bass will be closer to the current than your largemouth. So I'm just going to strictly talk to the largemouth in this. As I find a bigger creek on this river system, I'm going to get away from the current. Then I'm going to start looking for the primary points in that current, in that bay. I feel like those fish move off the river channel in the winter. They're moving into the bay, or just inside the bay and had wintered there all year. They're going to move from those major points to major points the quickest and the fastest. The ones that are always the best are the ones that have the creek channels closest to them. So that narrows down my entrance into the bay and what I'm looking for right now.
Yeah, I mean, kind of the continuation off that, like I said with the current earlier, just kind of keep that in mind. Don't go fishing somewhere specifically that's getting blasted by current. But what I do, I guess, as the live scoper of the group, which kind of surprises me to be, but yeah, I don't scope as much as some of my peers, but out of this group, I guess, just find an area where you think they're going to be spawning, like a pocket, a creek arm or something. Drop your trolling motor in the front and just start scoping. Scope your way from the very mouth to the back, slow down, it's the spawn. You're probably not going to see any crazy activity, but see if you find any chasing bait, work your way in, scope some laydown, scope everything, slow down, throw a jerk bait, throw a glide bait by anything that you can't really see and see if anything comes out and looks at it, and just really slow down. The last few tournaments I've been in, they've been kind of thinking about spawning or on bed, and you'll see a bass on live scope, cast at it, and it'll just not react or think, oh, it's a drum or whatever. And sometimes you just have to slow down with a wacky rig, jerk bait, just really make sure that fish sees it, bump it even, see if it moves, and then just really pick it apart and make sure that you're looking. Because with live scope, or even when they're on bed and you're looking with your eyes, like, it's not gonna lie. If you see them and if they react like a bass, it's a bass. So just take your time, use the tools you have, and try to find them that way.
On the Coosa River, especially here on Neely Henry, live scope is basically not a factor, to be honest. This section of the Coosa just doesn't really set up for it. You can use it down on the lower end, but everything's shallow on the spawning areas. First question I ask when I show up here is, I'm gonna fish for spotted bass or I'm gonna fish for largemouth. And the majority of this particular stretch of run, the 77 miles of it, there's only one, maybe two major creek on the whole lake. You got Canoe Creek, Beavers and Shouting, and along the creeks. But for most of what the spawning goes on here is pockets. The spawning sloughs. If I think like right now they're going to be spawning, I'm going to eliminate for largemouth. I'm pretty much eliminating anything to do with the river, looking back at spawning coves. I'm looking for spotted bass, totally different deal. I'm looking for any kind of point or any kind of bar that faces into the current. It's got a current break on the backside. The spots are going to spawn near the current, but not in the current. And that's the main question, figure out what species you're going to attack, and then use that to kind of maximize the time on the water.
Yeah, I agree with Matt. You know, the further, I guess, south you get besides the Alabama River, it's more of a scoping game. Lake Lake's become a scoping game. Logan Martin is a scoping game, especially after they get their spawning when the shad's out there, and in the summertime, winter months, stuff like that. So now's my favorite time to fish on the Coosa. Fish are up there spawning, thinking about spawning. You know, I'm a big spotted bass fisherman. Love the current. Anytime they got 2 turbines on at a dam, that's what I like the most. 1's okay, but 2 really gets these fish biting on the Coosa. All the way from the dam, all the way to the other dam. Anytime that you got good flow in the river. But these spotted bass, like Matt said, I've seen them bed up there at these dams before in the middle of the river because that's what they like. They like a hard bottom, sand, pea gravel, red clay banks, anything like that. It just depends on which lake you're going to. But they're not going to be right in the center of that current like stripe don't even spawn up there like that. But the big spots, your biggest ones, they get up there and they start doing their deal like right now. So largemouth, they've been bedding. You know, what you say? Some of them been bedding for 2 or 3 weeks by now. But if you love catching big spots, right now is the best time to go. Whether it's up there at the dam, fishing a seawall, up in a big cove somewhere, that's a good way to catch them. Or a Carolina rig on humps, shallow humps, 2 foot on top, set your boat at 15, and they'll be right up on top of them humps. Throw a lizard or anything like that on a half-ounce weight, or a Davis shaky head. I catch a lot of them on ours with shaky head, little wheels, 3/16, and a green pumpkin shaky worm. But that's usually what I try to do if I'm going to try to catch a big spotted bass this time of year.
These guys pretty much got it knocked, so I mean they're pretty well versed on all that. But there's a thing that you can look at too this time of year. Everybody's mentioned the spawn, it seems like, but there's always fish that aren't spawning. Probably more not spawning than they are, just about always. So I actually roomed with Jason Christie in the last NPFL, and he ended up winning the tournament. But he really paid attention to water temp, and everybody wants to look for the warmest water this time of year. He actually was wanting to catch them on a spinnerbait, and he fished the coldest water he could find every day, whether it be the whichever side of the shore that was coldest is where he would pay attention to, even if it was just 1 or 2 degrees. So, I mean, if you're starting right now, like at Logan Martin, if I was fishing Main River or right off the Main River, I'd be throwing a vibrating jig, a spinnerbait, something where I can move around and catch some fish as they're staging to spawn next week or whatever. And by the time those move in, there's going to be some moving out too. So you could do that the whole time. I love getting up in there and sight fishing, throwing a wacky worm at those dark spots, doing that. You can get plenty of bites doing that. Probably not going to get as many bites doing the moving deal right now, but it might be the bigger ones that you do catch.
Yeah, these guys are all over it. I know for me, if there's anybody in here, I know we've been really focusing on the Coosa River because we're out here on it. If anybody in here, if you like catching smallmouth or you like fishing like the Tennessee River, I live about an hour from Guntersville, and I grew up cutting my teeth on the Tennessee River. And, with smallmouth, and of course there's a little bit of everything there. Smallmouth and the current will come near, I've noticed, where your spots and largemouth come near time to get out of the current. The smallmouth will spawn. I have caught them spawning out on like the main river bars that are the shallower secondary bars, shell bars, gravel bars. They will spawn sometimes in the current where it's not as swift. A Carolina rig or like a swing head that some of you have seen, like football head. But you can take Carolina rig with a Zoom speed crawl or a 6-inch or 5-inch lizard, drag it around, you're going to get bit. As far as going into creeks, as Mark was saying, to me, I'm always looking for the first hard cover, first hard structure, whether it's gravel, junk rock, wood, anything, a clay bottom with maybe a lay down or whatever, the hardest stuff around, if you're trying to catch spawning fish, they will get on that hard stuff more than they will soft stuff a lot of times. And fish have amazed me at how I've seen them set up. But you know, I look for the hardest thing I can find and isolated stuff. It's funny how, you know, you'll be trolling along and, you know, you'll be fishing a moving bait or something, and all of a sudden you'll see one, and that's what I do. And I could go for hours on it, but that's what I do. You just look for the hard stuff right out of the current closest to deep water. Well, they can slide right up there and do their business.
Yeah, they pretty well covered much everything. Two little things I try and key on sometimes, especially this time of year, it gets overlooked. Everybody's, just all over the 1.5 2 foot stuff in the creeks and stuff, the real obvious stuff. You can still catch a lot of fish on this river and the Tennessee River on straight bluff banks. The spots will spawn on it, pre-spawn largemouth. You'll have smallmouth on it, obviously not on the Coosa. But, flipping bluff banks, vertical or not vertical, just going down the bank with them like a big spinnerbait, stuff like that, especially if there's current. And then the only other thing, like this upper Coosa with the water being a little bit lower, like a lot of the grass and good stuff just doesn't have quite enough water on it yet. You can get a lot of bites on just some of the ugliest banks that might have like a limb laying on it, or just a random, I don't know, up at Wash you can run into a toilet or a washing machine, just random stuff on those flat muddy banks can get you some really big bites this time of year.
Hunter Wayne, I'm going to add something to your little wrinkle here, since we're going to cover this pretty much, but when you go to a new body of water, what's some of the first stuff you look at? And I mean, that's obviously going to be a river system that we're talking about, but when it's totally new for you, what research do you do, and then what do you visually look for?
Yeah, just heading into a new body of water, obviously I want to try to find the fish that I want to catch. So I'm going to try to find some marginal water. I don't want to really be around the super, super clean stuff. I don't want to be in the mud either. So I'm trying to find the fish. And so I'm going to try to exploit those areas first, just because that's where I like to fish at. That's the style of fishing. Being if the water's low, a lot of times those fish are going to relate to that last little bit of deep water, and that might be a foot. There might be a boat ramp there before it goes back to where they're going to be spawning. They're going to set up on that stuff. And it's hard to beat northern facing pockets, stuff like that, that's going to have protection. Those are the fastest warming areas those fish are going to be coming to. But water clarity to me this time of the year is a big deal. I've been in situations in tournaments where I've really tried to force fishing in gin clear water, and how much of a difference how much smarter those fish are there. And you travel 8 miles up the lake and oh my gosh, I can get a bite now. So just keep in mind to be able to just keep bouncing around until you find the bite that you're looking for.
Well, folks, I think we're going to wrap this thing up now, unless anybody's got just an absolutely burning question here. Anyone? Okay. Why don't we do this? Thank everybody. They'll be here for a few minutes while we set up the raffle. We're going to turn it around really quickly. I'm going to get Colin and everybody down.